Hello, this is Edith Espinola, productivity coach for Keller Williams Bay Area Estates, and today is the top producer interview. My guest is David Giambruno, and I am so excited to have him here. David is a top producer, has been in the top, I believe, was it the 1% or 5%, David?
I think it's 3 or 5. Yeah,
Okay,
whatever. It doesn't.
3% is pretty good. So he's in the top 3% of agents in Santa Clara Valley. He used to have his own brokerage before coming over to Keller Williams, and he has received success ever since. So I want to just dive right into it and welcome, David. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to start. What did you do before you got into real estate, and how many years have you been doing it?
Yeah. So directly before real estate, like a lot of us, I was in high tech. I used to run a bunch of manage a group of engineers for a startup company. But I've always kind of had the desire to be my own boss. My first job was selling newspaper subscriptions and a paper route, then selling shoes. And then I opened up my own pet grooming business in Sunnyvale with a buddy of mine when I was 19. So I've just always kind of had that entrepreneur spirit.
Oh, I love it. So now when did you decide to join real estate?
I had a family member in law. At the time, she was a title rep. And she just said, "Hey, you know what? You ought to try your hand at real estate. I think you'd do well, and go talk to, this broker." And that's what I did. That was back in 2002.
2002. Great. So when you decided to join real estate, like what kind of things, what was it what were you doing right before you came into real estate? And then what was it that attracted you to real estate?
Well, at the time, I had been laid off from my tech job. So I thought it would be a good time to get that real estate license. But during that process, I got hired back by my tech company. So for a while, I did both. And I told my tech company at the time, "Hey, while I was furloughed, I got my real estate license. I'm going to do both for a while." They were good with it. However, I quickly got so busy that my tech boss pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you got to choose one or the other." And yeah, I kept getting, back then we had fax machines.
Right.
I kept getting faxes on the tech fax machine for real estate deals. And so, they were cool. They told me to choose. And so I chose real estate.
That's great. And so were you a little nervous when you chose real estate? Like, was it a difficult decision for you to make, or was it easy?
You know what? It was easy. I love it. I mean, to this day, I still do. When I started, it's back when it was easier for you to do mortgage and real estate. So I actually did mortgage and real estate together for about the first 8 years or so of my career.
That is awesome to have that foundation. So no
I
wonder
love it.
why you're in the top 3%. You could speak to both with your clients. I love that.
Yeah.
When you first started then, were you mentored, or did you have to learn on your own?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. I had great people around me, just like we do at Keller Williams. The broker kind of took me under his wing. And then actually, for you guys in the office that know Tom Beck, his dad, Kurt Beck, was the one that actually taught me the mortgage side of the business.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. So, okay, so then you were really lucky and really fortunate, right, to have some great mentors that helped you out. And, how long did it take you before you decided you wanted to open up your own brokerage?
So let's see. 2000. So about 4 years into my career, I got offered ownership opportunity at the mom and pop's brokerage
Hmm.
that I was working for. And so I jumped at that. And then after kind of a short period of time, probably 6 or 8 months, I realized that I wanted to do things differently. And the best way for me to do that was to go out on my own. So myself, two other agents in the office left, and we opened up Silicon Valley Associates in the Rose Garden area of San Jose.
That's awesome. Awesome. And so then when you decided to leave, did you come directly to Keller Williams or did you go somewhere else for a little bit?
Well, a quick funny story about opening up your own brokerage and timing. I opened up my brokerage in June of 2007. July of 2007 is when the bank started to crumble and is the beginning of the beginning of our financial crisis. So for those of you that are going through this, period in time right now, and it's the first time, I feel your pain. I mean, I was the owner of a brokerage. I sunk in all the money that I had to get it going. And for a few weeks, I literally could not get off of the couch because I was so depressed about what I had done. But then we figured it out. So we're good. But to answer your question, about, I think it'll be 7 years in June. I had my own brokerage. I had one business partner left and had a lot of great agents. Some of them, like Tom Beck, Eric Norris, who's here on the Zoom today too. A lot of great agents, with me, but I felt that I hit a little bit of a ceiling being an independent broker for both myself and my agents. And I always tried to teach and preach leverage. And I couldn't find ways that I could leverage being an independent broker to benefit myself and my agents. So I'll give you guys kind of the funny full story. I've known Jim Myrick for many, many years. I'd come across Jim. This is years and years and years ago. And Jim would always tell me, one of these days we're going to work together. He goes, I don't know how, I don't know when. He goes, but we are going to work together. So before Mark was involved with Keller and Los Gatos, Jim Myrick was going around town with Rick Cunningham and just reaching out to different people who he thought might be interested in starting up a brokerage in Los Gatos. So I met with Rick Cunningham and Jim, and we had a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation. And Rick had asked me to come on board as part of, the ownership group in some capacity. And I passed. I said, you know what? I like being independent. I've always been on the independent side. I didn't want to do the franchise thing. And so I passed, and Keller Williams Bay Area Estates launched without me.
Wow. So what kind of thoughts do you have about that? Like, does that make you think that you'd like to have ownership in a future office someday? Like, what kind of thoughts are you experiencing with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm here, right? I must have seen the value, even not from an ownership perspective, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of go back and forth. I was a broker. I did it for a number of years. You mentioned I had about 45 or so agents, and it's fulfilling, but it also takes a lot of time, right? My hat's off to the ownership group of our office, that pour into our lives, on a regular basis. It takes a lot out of you. So I'm not looking to get back in that saddle again, anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up, so I passed on the opportunity. And then, I don't know, just a short period of time after that, 2 or 3 months, I realized, yet again that, it was me and my business partner. And then we just had two different visions on how we wanted to grow ourselves and our business long term. So I was about to lease a 4,000 square foot building in Willow Glen, right off of Lincoln and Willow, and just do it all over. Just me, myself, build it up and go from there. And I thought, well, let me talk to people that I know and trust in the industry. So I went back, I reached out to Jim Myrick, and he said, come talk to this guy, Mark Von Canel. He says, I think you guys are a lot alike. And, you don't want to spend the time and the money to build up your own brokerage again, brick and mortar brokerage. So I did. I met with Mark. We hit it off, and I don't know. I think I brought on about 10 agents when I came on, and we worked out of the basement on Main Street way back when.
Yeah, and I think that's when I first met you, because I was actually, and I haven't really shared this much, but I was getting ready to leave Keller Williams at the time because I just felt so I just felt like I needed something else. Jim heard about it, and he had been my team leader before, introduced me to Mark. I signed on, and I was down in the basement too. I was right there in that little corner with a little light shade, right? It was fun. That was really, it felt very
Yeah, humble beginnings, right?
Exactly, right? I love that. I love that. So, well, I'm so glad that you decided that you wanted to come to, Bay Area Estates. And at the time it was Los Gatos Estates, right?
Correct, correct.
Yeah. So that's so good. So now, what have you done with all of the, like, what is your favorite part about being with Keller Williams?
Um, well, by nature, I'm very much an introvert. I mean, me putting on a sales hat and going to work, it is in a lot of ways kind of like an alternate ego.
Hmm.
So what I like is that I can, when I want to, I can just put my head down and work. But when there's times, when I do want to be able to bounce ideas off of people, we have the best in the business, in our brokerage. And so just having the flexibility to do both for me is great.
Hmm. That's so awesome. So, you have been, really working on promoting your brand, getting your videos out there, helping a lot of people understand the importance of that.
Mhm.
And what would you like to say about that? And then if anybody has any questions for him, go ahead and raise your hand. And this is a good time for you to bring those questions up. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, for sure. Thanks for the question.
Mhm.
So I guess before you look into online brand building and things like that, I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. So maybe for those of you that are on that are like, oh, I don't have the confidence to do it, or I'm not prepared or good enough or whatever. Um, like I mentioned, by nature, extremely shy. And in addition to that, like hate public speaking. I used to stutter really bad growing up. And so I just worked I joined Toastmasters, I worked on myself, and I'm still, we're all still work in progress, but, I worked on myself to kind of get to where I am today. And so, for those of you that are hesitant to like, hey, I don't feel comfortable behind a camera, or I don't feel comfortable putting myself out there. I just want to encourage you that, just to keep just one step at a time, keep doing it. And then I promise you over time, you'll grow and it'll become easier.
Mhm.
Um, for me, I like doing videos because there isn't anybody on the other side, right? I can sit there and record something, and it kind of feeds into that, who I am internally, where if it was up to me, I'd, not necessarily socialize as much as I need to, based on the industry that we're in.
Hmm. That's awesome. So, Kate said, "My favorite David's quote is better done than none." So, what does
Well,
that mean?
well, she misquoted a little bit, but basically what I try to tell her and everybody else is done is better than perfect, right? We sit there and we vacillate on, is it good enough, and those types of things. And I just tell them, like, execute, right? Done is better than perfect, and you can adjust and modify and fix things as you go.
Hmm. I love it. And, and that's something that I've also learned too, right? Is like, just get that first one out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely don't overthink it. Most of my videos that I send to clients and things like that, it is one take and that's it. Because I don't want to sit there and spend 30 minutes going over 3 minutes of video content. I just want to get it out and improve on the next one, improve on the next one.
right, right. And Morella says, Warren Buffett, just begin. So,
Yeah.
have you, and I love that you're like, okay, let's just get it done, get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that when you have little common trip ups or something like that, that it makes you more human, and
Mhm.
it makes you more
Relatable.
appealing, right? And relatable to your audience. So, you send out messages to your clients, and you do this on BombBomb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do individual BombBomb videos, and the thumbnail kind of looks like this. It says, hi Mona, and I'll, depending on the week, I mean, we'll do 20 or 30 of those videos out to prospects, leads, past clients, sphere of influence, all that good stuff.
Hmm. And I love it. I love that you have like your whole background set up. You've got your what's that called behind you? A backdrop.
Yeah, just a
And
little
I love
backdrop.
that you've got your book, right? Like, you've totally set that up. You've got your microphone, so really awesome.
Thanks.
So Susie Cornish says, don't let the perfect be the enemy of good. And then
Hmm.
Kim Yagi, she's been looking at ring lights with a tripod.
Yes.
So she said there are a few different ones, 6-inch, 8-inch, and 10-inch. Which size do you have?
Hmm. Uh, I'll send the link out to the one I have. It's the bigger one.
Yeah,
It's like maybe a 12-inch. I don't know, 10 or 12 would be my guess. And then I have a Logitech camera that's mounted on top of it.
mm-hmm. And was it a big cost investment to do that?
No, I think that ring light's $100. The camera's probably $50. The backdrop's $15. And I think I got that book for free.
That's awesome. Okay, so she says thank you.
You're welcome. And since we're throwing out great quotes, my mom, when I was a kid, had a friend, and her name escapes me, but she was an author and all that good stuff. Anyway, she used to always say that procrastination is suicide in installments, and that stings. Like, it's kind of a sharp, quote, but it stayed with me all this life, my entire life. Doesn't mean I don't still procrastinate at times, but it's a constant reminder to me that the things that we put off in our business, whether it's prospecting, client follow-up, having a difficult conversation, those are the things that are definitely going to bite you in the ass if you don't handle it, upfront and earnestly.
I love that quote so much because that explains why you are so dynamic and you just keep moving and doing whatever it is that you find that you're good at, and you just keep going. So when you're connecting with your clients and you're using BombBomb, what kind of a response are you receiving on that?
It's pretty good. I mean, definitely when you incorporate video into your email or social experience, you're going to get a lot more eyeballs and a lot more click through, right? People
Mm-hmm.
tend, I mentioned this the other day. I mean, people tend to remember more when they see it and hear it versus just reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? A lot of times they won't click on the video, but they'll see my face. They see, because I don't just send a video. When I'm sending an email video, I don't just send the video, but below the video, I also explain, what I say in the video, right? Not, it's not always convenient for people to click on something and watch it. So I want to make sure that they're getting it both ways, but just having your face out there,
Mm-hmm.
I think especially right now, more than ever matters.
I love that. So that's an individual touch. Do you have a drip campaign that you've utilized?
Yeah, I've got several. So I haven't made the move over to Command yet, but I probably will at some point. But right now I use Follow Up Boss, and there's a lot of great built-in drip, systems in place. The nice thing is that it'll send text messages. I have preset videos that go out automatically and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. What is the biggest pillar of your business?
Uh, Sphere of influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this a little bit, Edith, when you asked me to be on the webinar. I've got a huge fear of rejection, right? Like you ask my wife, I'm super sensitive. So I had to figure out, at least for me, how do I build a business where I don't have to face that rejection all the time? I know a lot of people tell you, you got to go through it and all that good stuff. Well, I try to go around it.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I saw a long time ago the benefit of surrounding myself with professionals and people from other industries where we can leverage each other's databases and resources. So that way the leads that were coming to me were not only warm, but almost guaranteed, right? When your
Mm-hmm.
CPA says, when you go to your CPA and your CPA says, call Edith because you need to buy a rental property now, it's a lot easier conversation for you to have than you just maybe cold calling or door knocking, to try to find your next deal. So I did a lot of seed sowing, interviewing, accountants, attorneys, financial planners, lenders, figured out who I wanted to be in business with. And now, we leverage each other's databases and opportunities. And that's significantly where I've gotten my business from over the years.
That sounds good. It sounds like you really have embraced business to business.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and I'll give you an example. A lot of times I think agents forget that we can leverage the people surrounding our industry as well. And I'll give you an example. Right before the call today, I had a buyer consultation, and that buyer lead came from my title rep. Now, I'm not always looking for direct business from title reps and lenders and things like that. But what I am looking for is opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got my guys that, or folks that I work with, and we look at each other's business plans for the year, sometimes quarterly. And I'm looking at the title rep and saying, hey, I can't open 50 escrows with you this month, obviously, but I can create opportunities for you. I can introduce you to other agents. I can introduce you to other lenders, so it's looking outside of yourself, right? And the people that are around us in our industry, figure out how you can help them, and it'll be reciprocated tenfold.
I love that. So, and I love that you're focusing on the opportunities, right? So then, with, that, how big is your database right now?
Oh, geez. I'm about 8,000. A lot of that's online leads that are in the
Mm-hmm.
database now. But yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
up 7,000 or 8,000.
Okay. And then for your sphere of influence, right? Do you do any kind of client events or, anything in addition to what you're doing?
I, I don't do client events. Again, I think it's just that fear, so that's something I should do better. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do try to reach out to them on a semi-regular basis. As far as my sphere of influence, I'm in constant communication with those guys. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
financial planners, title reps, lenders, those guys that I interact with. I mean, they're some of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And then also just the people in your database by sending a unique and it's intimate because it's from you to them, the email with the bomb bomb video. I think that, that makes them feel like they get to know you. You don't need to have a client event because they know you one-on-one that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's, a lot of, for a while, I used to use slide dial, right, which just slides right into their voicemail. But this is much better than that, because you're right. You get to get your personal message across. There's a higher probability they're going to click on it, and they get to see your face, and then they're reminded that you actually care.
That's awesome. So now, the videos that you do, you have a great personality for somebody who is an introvert and, shy and all of that. I mean, you come across very engaging, right? And so,
Thanks.
what kind of videos do you do?
I mean, everything from market updates to check-ins. Uh, do some silly ones. I mean, if you look hard enough on YouTube, you will find some videos that I did probably 10, 15 years ago. And they were and they were pretty funny. So I don't know. I try not to take myself too seriously.
Yeah, that sounds like a challenge. You should watch our internal Facebook group and see if anybody posts one.
Yeah, there's definitely some Charlie Sheen references. I did do, this is probably 15 years, 14 years ago, 10 years. I don't know. I'm not
Hmm.
good with time, but I did some videos with Tom Ferry back before video was even really big.
That's awesome.
I just wish I would have stuck with it back then. I'd be a lot better off now.
That's awesome. So, kind of shifting a little bit, right? And no pun intended. I didn't realize I was going to say it that way. So, how has your business been during this time of shelter in place? Oh, Andy has already posted a link, so
Yeah,
we'll have to
thanks,
go
Andy.
there after.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, he's just watching out for you.
Yeah. How's my business? So, I mean, business has been good.
Uh-huh.
I love, if you talk to some agents that have been around a long time, we love this kind of market. I think it thins the herd. And I think that the people that are actually getting up every morning and working now are the ones that are going to be successful long term. So, I mean, I'm very, very fortunate. I've got a big deal closing this week in Los Gatos. That was an off market deal. For about 3 million. I got one in a contract over the weekend at 155, and listing coming on this week. Life's not good, but I have a lot of kids to feed, so I don't have a choice.
I know. How many kids do you have, David?
Well, it's a blended family. So I have two. I have a boy and a girl, and then my wife has three daughters. So we've got five.
And so what is life like over at the Giambruno home during this time?
Lots of laughter and lots of wine.
I love it. I love it. So I kind of wanted to go now to what your backdrop is here, right? Like you have the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Now, do you focus on helping investors, or is that for you personally as an investor? Where are you at in that realm?
Yeah, so I focus on everything, right? I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but I love the investor side, the number side, you know, coming from the having a mortgage background. I do commercial, you know, I'm one of the agents in the office that do commercial transactions as well. I love the investment side because it's less emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier for me, I think, to you know, to understand that. I mean, I just love the challenge of our industry, right? We all got into this for different reasons. Some people love architecture and some people love people. I just like the challenge. I love putting deals together, and I'm competitive, so I love to win, right? I love to win for myself and my clients. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
it.
So it doesn't matter if they're a first-time home buyer, you know, um, sizing up, sizing down, leaving the area. It doesn't matter. You just love the deal.
Yeah.
You love getting something for them, right? Like is it like getting like winning the best for your
Yeah.
client part of the deal, or being
Oh, for
able to
sure.
like get them in?
Yeah, no, it's both, right? I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, I love first time home buyers because I feel that you always remember your first time, right?
Right.
So and that can have a lasting impact on how they view our industry.
Hmm.
So a lot of times I have a specific lending partner, and we've done a lot of very complicated first time home buyer deals that other agents or lenders wouldn't do. And they're a pain in the ass, and they take longer, and they don't pay as well. But those, at a lot of times, are the most fulfilling, and those are the ones where they'll never forget you because of what you did for them when nobody else would.
I love that, right? So it sounds like during the time that you're working with your clients, you're really focusing on making sure that you build that relationship, and that it sounds like you're definitely nurturing your relationship with them.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I mean, I like to show them how I know everything should be win-win. Okay, that's fine, but I'm making sure that I'm doing everything I can to get the big W in that win and not the little one.
I love that. So, you know, when I asked you to be, you know, my guest for this interview today, were there any things that you thought of that you really wanted to make sure that you shared with everybody?
Definitely.
Hmm.
Thank you for asking, and I have my notes.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so a couple of things, you know, just really quick, back to leverage. It it is so important that you build up a team that are creating, I don't want to say sending business, but creating opportunities for you. So, you know, interview attorneys and CPAs and lenders, and I mean, all the gardeners, painters, contractors, take a genuine interest in their business, and they'll do the same for you. You know, I'm always looking for that, right? I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I'm looking, how can I leverage opportunities? Another thing that agents don't think about, you know, maybe when you're talking, so in Keller Williams, we have the benefit of a downline. And so what I want agents to do is talk to your title reps and your lenders. Right now is a little weird because of the shelter in place, but those two specific segments of our industry talk to more agents than you could ever. So when a title rep comes in and says, "Hey, David, I want to earn your business. Is there anything I can do for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, go find me two agents that aren't happy at their brokerage." Right? Because there's all, you guys get, there's a lot of ways other than just getting transactional business that you can leverage the people around you, use them to build your downline, right? or, introduce a lender to a title rep so they can send them your business. There's tons of things that you can do to benefit yourself outside of just that, individual transaction.
Yeah, I love that perspective.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing I think right now, especially for agents that haven't been in the business very long, this is a difficult time right now. Like I mentioned back in 2007 when I was like in the fetal position on the couch, not wanting to get out of the house. We have a lot of Zoom meetings every day, and coaching with you and coaching with Maps. But I think right now more than ever, it's important that you grab somebody in the office and you hold each other accountable, right? Even if it's just like, hey, for the next hour, we're going to send texts or we're going to call our clients or something, just somebody that you can check in on a daily basis. I really think that's important right now to help you get through, what we're currently in.
That is such great advice, because holding somebody accountable is just holding them to integrity, right? They said that they want to create a certain business, so you're just helping them to do that. Awesome advice.
Yeah, and it's good just to have somebody that you can call, right? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's fear's a real thing, right? And a lot of agents are struggling with that, so it's good to have somebody that you can check in with and kind of hold each other's hands and get through it.
So I know that the last time we went through a shift, you had said that you were in the fetal position. A lot of us were for a little bit, right? But you really having a brokerage, that's amazing. That must have been an amazing experience to have to work through. So now, when this shift occurred, did you experience any of those emotions again, or did you just go ahead and just jump on in and take advantage of it right away?
Yeah. So we've been shelter in place now for a little over a month, right?
Right.
Last Thursday, I think, was the first day when I felt a little bit of like, I wonder how long this is really going to last. And just a little bit of anxiety and fear crept in. But up until that point, I mean, we made it through 07, 08, 09, and I actually, did really well in those years. And so again, I just went back to, this is a great time to be in business, because now, and I think I said this on our last panel, but it's easy to be a good agent in a great real estate cycle, right? Everybody looks like a rock star, things are selling fast, but when there's a shift, those average agents, they're the ones that bomb out and go away. So, I know that I have enough information and technology at my fingertips that I can rise above, kind of the average agent. And people, I think people right now, especially more than ever, are attracted to people that have factual, relevant information. I think people are drawn to that.
I love that. So, did anybody have any questions? Everybody's so quiet.
Uh-oh. Damn it.
I know, right?
While people are thinking about what to say,
actually, Carlos has a question for you, if you
what's up,
don't
Carlos?
mind.
No.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you for showing up and having this interview. So I'm very impressed with your career. You mentioned that you had a couple of transactions going on, and you're already engaged in 2 transactions. Is it something that you did on the prior, the SIP, or is something that you just catch up with?
Yeah, so thanks, Carlos, for the question. It's a combination of both. So these are clients that we either had in contract and then help keep the deal together during the shelter in place, or buyers that were kind of on the sidelines, that once the shelter in place hit, they realized that there might be a scarcity of inventory for a while. So I was able to get, like I said, one in a contract this past weekend, with it only being on the market 1 day. So it's just a combination.
That was a great question, Carlos. Thank you. Anybody else? So, okay, David, you were going to go ahead and say something?
Oh yeah. So if you're like me, you're starting to get a little zoomed out, right? I mean, we're on let me take a step back and say we are very fortunate that our office puts on as much content as it does, because there are other offices in our valley where the agents are just desperate for good information. So, as always with Keller, we have more, information and education, than you could have time for. But that said, you really got to pick and choose what is applicable to you and what you can apply to your business right away, because otherwise you guys can sit on Zoom calls all day long and get nothing done. So I would encourage you guys, to be choosy on the Zoom meetings that you're on, because you can fill your head with a lot of information, but if you don't execute, then it's all for nothing. So one of the Facebook groups that I encourage you to join, if you're not a member already, is Lab Coat Agents. Mm-hmm. They're probably by far the best in putting out current, relevant information that you guys can actually use in your business. So if you are going to go outside of the Keller Zoom world, Lab Coat Agents on Facebook would be probably the one and only group that I, paid attention to.
Well, and I think Nick Baldwin is with KW, isn't he?
Yeah. And Tristan was or might have been. So
yeah, I'm not sure if he still is, but Nick is. Yeah, that's a great group. So we do have a question, and I apologize for if I'm going to butcher your name. Janakaram?
Yes, Janakiram Pupara.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. So
this is very interesting. You both have been very nice, the presentation and your follow-up questions for David.
Thank you.
David has been so very nice sharing all his experience, and I like the part.
Thank you.
Kind of how he mentioned that he is an introvert, which I am the one. I always get not able to do the things.
Great.
But I want to ask David, what is his, things he can share about his time management? Probably he's doing a lot of things, interacting with a lot of people. How he is able to manage all these things, putting the videos, sending the emails, and I'm sure he has a lot of.
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that.
Yeah, great question. I have tried to perfect the 4-hour workday. And so a lot of times if you see me at the office and I'm not stopping to talk or, chit chat, part of that is because I'm not big on small talk, but the other reason is I'm happy to talk to you if you stop me. But the other reason is I'm trying to cram as much as I can into 4 hours of the day, right? I've got dogs and kids and they're in travel sports and I try to spend as much time with them as I can. So up until the past few months, I try to stick to that. Like if, so during those 4 hours, I'm not on Facebook and checking, social feeds and things like that. I'm in there like, acting as if I only had 4 hours to get everything done. And that puts the pressure on me to make sure that I perform. But to your point for time blocking, I've got a super short attention span. So I try to take things in very small chunks, right? So some people may be able to prospect or call leads for, 1, 2, 3 hours at a time. I try to do 30-minute increments, right? I have to have integrity with myself and know what my limitations are. So that way I don't self-sabotage. So I know if I can prospect for 30 minutes or lead gen for 30 minutes, and then for 30 minutes of follow-up, I break it down that way and I find I have more success with it.
That's awesome. Thank you, David. So was there anything else that you really wanted to make sure that you got out? You shared with everybody? Because I want to, you're such a wealth of knowledge, and just in case I'm not asking the right question,
sure.
What is there anything else you wanted to make sure you shared?
Yeah, so I'm looking in the chat here and I see that Christy asked a question about, as a new agent, what's the best way to find title reps and loan officers? So that's a great question. It may take some time. They're everywhere, I promise you. And now more than ever, they're looking for business. So I would recommend, and I can kind of help you offline, Christy, we can identify a couple, and I always try to find people that are kind of same scenario as me, right? When, maybe same age group or hobbies or interests, because these are people that I want to build long-term relationships with. Every Friday morning I go hike with some of my lending buddies, right? And those are guys where we feed each other business and opportunities throughout the year. So I'm always trying to align myself with people that have kind of similar interests, and it just makes the relationship that much easier. But offline, I'm happy to help you kind of dig through that a little bit deeper.
I love that you had said that, right? Because you're the client of the title rep, right? You're the client of the loan officer. So when you're here saying, I want to connect with somebody who has similar interests as me, then it's like on the other side, that's how our clients feel, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
You actually bring up a good point. I think there's two types of agents that can be very successful. One is, when it comes to building rapport with people, either you are so sociable and engaging and entertaining that people are just drawn to you, and you build rapport that way, or the other way is through, facts and what you say, right? So for me, I've always relied on statistical information, data, to assert myself as the expert in my respective field, right? So, and I think a lot of us as real estate agents think, oh, I'm a social butterfly, I'll do great in real estate. But I can tell you, because I've talked to some of you, you should spend a little bit less time talking socially and more time talking about facts and relevant data in our industry. And then by coupling those two, it'll catapult you, to a lot of success in our business.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So Carlos has a question for you. Carlos? Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask, you mentioned Tom Ferry, and also you mentioned before in another interview that you don't like scripts, but I imagine that you already internalized the script. So which one is your favorite pitch?
Oh, favorite pitch. I don't know if I have a favorite one, but I always try to use language so that the consumer or the client can relate to you, right? So I mentioned, there's a book, and I don't get any proceeds from it, but it's exactly what to say for real estate agents. It's not a script book. Well, there's scripts in there, but there's certain words that, if you're like me, will resonate with you, and it'll allow you to have better conversations with your clients. And that's one of the words right there, is if you're like me, right? Because
I love that book, if I can chime in.
Yeah.
Actually, David recommended that book to me, and it's been really good. Also, he has another version of it for real estate agents.
Right.
So it's called Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. And he came up with a modified version of his best words for the shelter in place for COVID, for this situation. It's on his website, Phil M. Jones.
Yeah.
And it's really great. So I highly recommend it. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marilla.
Thanks, Marilla. And, to your point, Carlos, I don't necessarily have like a pitch, but I certainly ask a lot of questions, right? I want to be able to control the conversation. So I ask a lot of questions, but the important thing when you're talking with the client, it's okay to ask a question and then stop and wait for a response. Too many times, and I've been guilty of this myself, we'll ask a client a question, oh, what do you think about this kitchen? And then before they even get a chance to respond, you roll into, the granite waterfall island and this and that. Just like, shut up, just ask the question, and you'd be surprised at what the clients come back and say. And especially on the hard stuff too. Just ask the question, sit back and see what they say.
That's awesome. You're starting to get a lot of love now. So I'm going to make sure that just in case we don't get to see this all, I'll send you the chat, but you're getting a lot of love, including the best mentor ever. So what are your thoughts on the future market? This is from Cindy. What are your thoughts on the future market? And do you follow any speakers such as Tom Ferry or Tony Robbins?
Good questions. So I don't religiously follow Tony Robbins or Tom Ferry or those guys. I like Gary Vaynerchuk a lot. But I think they all have good stuff, right? So I just try to pick and choose, but I don't spend a whole bunch of time, again, because you could spend all day on Tom Ferry's website watching his videos, but then you don't get anything done. So I say just pick and choose. I think there's a lot of good ones out there. I think Tom's good. I really like Gary V. Oh, what is it called? Is it keeping current matters? Is it KSM or KCM? I'll send it out on a follow-up email. They are the other ones that I would say follow absolutely. It's Steve. Maybe you can help me, Edith. It's Steve.
I don't know.
Okay, no. These guys, from a data perspective, like no bullshit. Like it's let me find it. Steve.
Oh, here we go, Judith.
It's Steve Harney. Yeah, so Steve Harney.
And Judith said, keep current matters.
Yep. Yeah. So that for me, I would listen to any of that before I listen to any of those other guys, because it's going to give you factual data about our market. And I think it'll put a lot of your fears or concerns at ease. And it also gives you a great tool to communicate with your clients. Something I used to tell newer agents when I was a broker is, and I'm glad I'm not a broker anymore, but when you're talking to your client, I don't care if you're right or wrong, but just be convincing and have conviction when you say it, right? That matter. These people are hiring you because you're supposed to be the expert in your field. So you better come across as the expert. Arm yourself with facts and data. And if you don't know something, that's okay, but don't stumble and try to BS your way through an answer that you don't know, because that'll turn people off.
Yeah, confidence really helps a lot, right? Just having the confidence and the knowledge. And then, part of being a professional is knowing when you don't have the answer, that you feel comfortable. I don't have the answer, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, no, definitely. As I'm kind of going through my notes here, but to Cindy's question about the market, I do think that there's a fair amount of pent up inventory, right? We had a lot of sellers that withdrew or canceled that'll come back on the market. So I think June is going to be a really telling month, as long as the shelter in place gets modified and we're able to show owner occupied properties and things like that. Because June typically is a slow month for us countywide. So it'll be interesting to see what June does. And then I'm also looking for October, because it's typically, again, a slow month for us, but also it's right before an election. So I just kind of watch. For me, I'm kind of looking forward to those two times of the remainder of the year to kind of see what happens.
I love that. So we're getting close to the end. So if anybody wants to ask a question or send David some love, please feel free to do so in the chat. Carlos, real quickly, because I have one last question for David. What is your question? Oh, you're still muted. Just one moment. There we go.
Oh, he's back on mute. There you go.
It's about investing. You probably have a lot of experience with investors. You probably have that niche. And there are a lot of people who are going to be on short sales and foreclosures nowadays. How do you reach out to investors?
Investors are easy to find. I tell you what, Carlos, you can hit me up afterwards. It's easy to find an investor. It's going to be a lot harder to find short sales and foreclosures, because I don't think it's going to be prevalent in our upcoming kind of real estate cycle. I just don't see that. And I can explain another time kind of why. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up to everybody on the call, Keller Williams is a great organization, right? And if you've read Millionaire Real Estate Agent, there's the different levels. Don't ever get hung up on somebody else's success, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. A few years back, I was a little stressed out because I didn't have a level 7 business and all that good stuff. And I felt the pressure I put pressure on myself to try to achieve that. And I was in one of the Keller business planning meetings, and the speaker said, he says, you know what? It's okay. You can stay on level 3. You can stay on level 4. And so for all you agents in the office that are individual agents, or maybe you're newer and you see the success of other people, it's not you against them, it's you against you. And so for me, I'm always looking to find that balance of like happiness and enjoyment in what I do. And for me, I've realized it's not running a team with 10 agents and things like that. You know, I'm very happy the way things are going now. I make a good living. I've got a lot of time to spend with my family and friends. And so for me, I think the balance is more important than trying to achieve something that you see around you.
Right. Your only competition is who you were yesterday.
There you
So
go.
Brian has a question for you. Go ahead, Brian.
I got on 5 minutes late. I'm not sure if you covered this, but I was wondering what your top 3 pillars are, and also a couple of pillars that you thought might be good, but then you discarded them because they weren't your bag.
Okay.
Yeah. Great question. So real quick, my sphere of influence, right? So the people you surround yourself with, from title reps, contractors, you know, all the way down the line. Online lead generation has been really big for me. And then we probably don't have enough time, but when we talk about leverage, you know, I had hit a little bit of a plateau in my business about 6 months or so ago. And so I'm always looking around, how can I leverage opportunities? And so I saw that Mark Von Kanel, he and Barbara Warner had stopped working together. And as I started looking at Mark's business, I identified some opportunities that he wasn't capitalizing on because he was busy. Right. So I approached Mark and said, hey, look, here's ways I think we can work together that doesn't cost, you know, doesn't really cost you anything, but I can leverage, you know, some increased business for us. So that, you know, working with Mark now is probably my 3rd pillar. And it's been great. And so a pillar that maybe worked or that I tried and didn't work, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Door knocking?
What's that?
Door knocking?
Well, yeah, you'll never see me door knocking. But to your point, maybe print mailing. I think nowadays there's a time for print media, but I think there's more effective ways now.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
we are wrapping up right now. So David, I wanted to ask you, thank you, Brian. If you have more, if you could either put it in the chat or go offline with David. So David, I wanted to know, what is your big why? What drives you to put so much, you know, to put so much energy into your business? What is it that you would like your life to be like years from now?
Yeah. So 2 things kind of drive me. The first is I love to see the people around me be successful, right? So whether it's agents in the office or my partners, I love to be able to look for ways to help them grow their business. That's why I became a broker. It's super satisfying for me when I see other people succeed. And then the other thing is, you know, is my kids, right? You know, without the sob story, I mean, I grew up with a single mom. Dad left when I was 3. And, you know, never heard from him again. And so, you know, being able to have a better life for my kids than I had, that's it.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Like, I wanted to ask you what your childhood was like. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a sob story, but it could be something that drives you to, you know, have a greater life for your children. And, you know, your wife and your children, you have such a beautiful family. I mean, you all look like models.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of fun too, I would imagine, right? Just all this beauty around you and all the love that surrounds you. And, you know, you also have a lot of love. You'll see it in the chat. And you have a lot of respect and admiration as one of the leaders in our office. So I really appreciate you coming in today and speaking so openly and candidly with everybody and sharing. You know, David Giambruno, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm just surprised that everybody want to stick around this long to hear me talk.
You got a lot to offer. So everybody that's here, thank you so much for participating and putting in your questions, putting in your love. It's been a great session to be talking with David, and I look forward to talking with you guys again. Thank you, and bye-bye.